So my 29-year-old husband, Nine, passed away in a work accident in February. He drowned after falling off a boat. It was a freak accident, and the company's one and only fatality in their decades-long history. We have a 2-year-old son together, and as you can imagine, I am reeling. He basically left for work on a normal Friday night and never made it back. His mother has always disliked me from the moment she knew about my existence. All these years he did his best to protect me from the insanity, and in the past year it seemed as if mother-in-law had finally come around and wanted to make amends, because DH was still hopeful that his mother could change, and he wanted my son to have a relationship with his grandma. I agreed on VVLC, even though I didn't feel good about it. Well, after he passed, I had the unenviable yet necessary task of going through his stuff. I couldn't help but look through his conversation with mother-in-law. You guys, I knew this woman was off the rails, but I was left shaking after reading their conversation. All these years, she had been wishing ill upon me and my parents. She'd regularly accuse me of trying to divorce her and DH. On multiple occasions, she said that she prayed to God that he will take away someone that I loved the same way I took away DH from her. She told DH that karma will come for my son. She accused me and my parents of being gold diggers. For the record, my parents paid for our wedding and dear husband funeral because that's just how much they loved him. My poor husband did a wonderful job of defending us and shutting her down. And there were many instances where he would cut her off mid-rant by blocking her. In the past year, the vitriol did ease up considerably, though there were still many instances of it. Despite her and her family's terrible relationship with DH and me, I made sure that the whole lot of them had priority and sufficient access to DH at his funeral. I know I didn't have to extend the courtesy to them, but I've also buried a child, and I was willing to put aside our differences for a couple of hours so they could say their goodbyes proper. Turns out I shouldn't have cause. They supposedly weren't happy with how the funeral went. Pretty rich coming from people who said they wanted to foot the bill for the funeral, but never ponied up. And don't get me started on the inheritance. DH didn't leave a will, and that's another wild ride on its own. My rant is getting all over the place now, but more than anything, I just need to get this off my chest. This woman is evil. I feel sorry for my DH. He didn't deserve a mother like this, and he tried so hard to work things out with her up to his death. Some days I feel like telling her that she got what she wished for. God did take away someone I love. Her son. Talk about sinking the ship to kill the captain. I miss my dear husband terribly. I wish he had a much better mother in his short life. Update. First off, I really want to thank everyone for your support in my last post. I honestly didn't think it would get much attention, and I truly appreciate every single response. Some time has passed, and some matters have been taken care of. I received a couple of calls from mother-in-law via father-in-law phone, and they were odd. There was some hostility, some sympathy pandering, and a whole lot of question marks and odd requests. I kept each conversation brief and civil. As expected, mother-in-law did try to make a play for my house, but the law states clearly that I'm the sole legal owner, so no dice for her. Interestingly, the calls have stopped since the inheritance have been distributed. I'm hoping this is it, and I'll be left alone, though I'm pretty sure I will receive another one at some point. None of the calls were to ask about my son's daily needs. Strangers have come forward with milk, diapers, and food, yet there's been radio silence on my late husband's family's part. Mother-in-law did ask me to bring my son to see her, but each time I told her she's more than welcome to see her grandson at my parents' house. I don't get a response after. Lol, to me, this is a clear indication of their disinterest in my son. Not that it matters to me. I've got a wonderful support system, and my son doesn't need to be surrounded by such toxicity either. Just thought I'd hit you all with this little update since I did see a number of you followed me. I hope there's nothing interesting to follow up with, but if there is, you'll be informed. Here's to a lifetime of grieving peacefully and happiness, whatever that means anymore. Story 2. My mother-in-law set up a situation to suffocate our 2-month-old and make it look like an accident. Long story short is mother-in-law came for a 2-week visit to see her first grandchild. She's a very erratic and negative person with a huge don't tell me what to do mindset. Over the first week, she was acting how she typically has been in the past, but during the second part of the visit, things escalated and she became increasingly weird. She kept insisting on taking our baby to her room to sleep. We had multiple conversations with her about safe sleeping and specifically said no pillows since it's dangerous. Only put the baby to sleep in the bassinet. She seemed to not want to listen, so we decided she can't have the baby at night. It's a tempting offer to have a full night's sleep, as we're sleep-deprived new parents. She took the baby out of my arms as he was screaming from gas pains at around 11 p.m. last Saturday and said she'll get him calmed down. At this point, she has taken him out of the living room to her room and back once he's asleep, and in process multiple times with no issue. I can hear him crying for about 10-15 minutes after she left the room, but after another 10-15 minutes of silence, she wasn't back. So my husband and I went to check on the baby. Baby was placed on a fluffy pillow against the wall, and she was sleeping next to him. I think she was fake sleeping. We immediately snapped him up and didn't let her touch him for the rest of the duration of her stay. We told her not once, not twice, but 3 separate times that this can suffocate him, and she literally put him in the most unsafe way possible on the bed. This was not a careless mistake. She knew what she was doing. 10 minutes after we got the baby back, she came in the living room pretending to mess with a cup on the table, brushed her teeth, and then went to bed without saying anything. Normally, she's really chatty. We think she was trying to bait a fight out of us, so we decided to gray rock her while keeping the baby in our sight at all times. She was relatively silent the rest of the trip, 3 days, and literally looked like she wanted to kill us near the end. I've never felt this from anyone before, and it was terrifying. The kicker is that she was using my husband's iPad alone in her room for a few hours before she left, and it seems she was looking up murder stories and true crime videos. It's just so creepy. In retrospect, there's a ton of small things that she did and said that makes it seem that she was thinking about harming the baby for at least a day or 2 before this happened. I feel sick about the whole thing. Before this incident, she was doing things to bait fights from us and was talking shit about my husband while he was gone, thinking that would drive a wedge between us. She had an agenda. She wants him to move back in with her and punish us for not giving her money, and would literally harm a baby, her own flesh and blood, to do so. There's a lot of details and events that lead up to the incident, but it feels way too much to write up. She's definitely mentally ill. She was frantically ranting at me for hours a day about money and how everyone treats her poorly, etc. before the incident, and probably has a personality disorder. Other members of her family have cut ties with her over her behavior. We are never talking to her again. Luckily, we live in a different country far away, and there's no way she could randomly drop by. I've never experienced anything remotely like this before in my life with anyone. This is the first time I've seen her in 2 years, and the last time I'll ever see her. Story 3. My mother-in-law photoshopped my husband's nose on our wedding pictures. How do I tell him? I 27 female have been with my husband 29 male for 7 years. I remember that early in our relationship, one of the first things he expressed insecurity about was his nose, specifically about its width. He never wanted surgery, but thinks his nose is too big for his face. I never thought that true, and for a long time, I wondered where he'd gotten that idea from. Then I met his mother, and all my doubts went out the window. I don't hate her, but the woman complains about everything, and she seems particularly interested in criticizing her sons. Barely anything about my husband or his older brother is good enough for her, and if it is, she is quick to imply they don't deserve it. According to my bill, that behavior didn't start until file passed about 8 years ago, so they don't usually hold it against her. But to me, it seems like she legitimately doesn't want her children to be happy. Most times we talk to her, my husband ends up devastated. She constantly complains about me, his job, our apartment, and his appearance. She has, on more than one occasion, suggested he get a nose job. That tends to upset him, so I always try to shut that down as quickly as possible. We got married in early May. The photos were ready about 2 months later, and we created a shared album on Google Photos for our friends and family, including mother-in-law. I got pregnant during our honeymoon. Can't recommend Dubrovnik enough. And I'm now 24 weeks along. We've had problems with mother-in-law concerning my pregnancy. We're having a boy, and she had a breakdown because she wanted a girl that forced us to put her on an info diet. That was 2 months ago, and she has since improved her behavior. Because of that, we said yes when she invited us to go to a mall near her place to shop for baby clothes last Saturday. My husband had an emergency at work and ended up not coming, but we still managed to have a good time. When we were done, she invited me back to her place. I hadn't been there in a while, and I quickly saw that she'd gotten some of our wedding pictures up on the wall. I instantly noticed something was wrong with them, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was yet. A mother-in-law saw what I was looking at and proudly announced that she'd gotten someone to fix his nose. In other words, she gave her son a Photoshop nose job on his wedding pictures. I couldn't believe it. I never thought she'd stoop so low. It wasn't even a good nose job. It was so bad that my husband's face didn't look real. He looked like a Ken doll, and not in the hot Ryan Gosling way. Mother-in-law must have seen how mad I got because she instantly tried to defend herself. She tried to make the point that her son deserved to look his best on his wedding day, and I should have convinced him to get the real nose job before our ceremony. I made up an excuse to leave, but I could tell she knew the real reason. She's been calling and texting me almost every day since. I've been ignoring her, but she's always either apologizing, accusing me of overreacting, or begging me not to tell my husband. I know it seems trivial, but I'm outraged. And the more I think about it, the more disgusted I get. I could never imagine doing something like that to my child. I haven't told my husband yet, mostly because we've both been busy with work this week, but also because I have no idea how to. His mother was finally starting to be a better person around him and his brother, and I know it will break his heart to find out about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell him, but I can't figure out how. I know he loves his mother, and I don't want to damage whatever relationship they still have. Mother-in-law also mentioned she intended to send the improved pictures to some of her relatives. So I have to find a way to shut that down. So how can I tell my husband his mother photoshopped his face on our wedding pictures? More importantly, What would be the most peaceful way to do it?